Support for 100 Watts and a Wire is brought to you by 100wattsandawire.com. To subscribe to the show, simply click the RSS feed. While you're there, apply for your free 100 Watts ID and learn how you can help make 100 Watts and a Wire listener supported. Click the donate page and pick the option that works best for you. We've got a traveling toolkit, 100 Watts and a Wire gear, and more. That's 100wattsandawire.com. And ICOM. Heard it, worked it, logged it. It is time to get the transceiver that is best suited for your lifestyle. ICOM offers a variety of high performance and innovative products. See how you can make the most out of contest season with one of these transceivers.
And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Hey, it's Christian K0STH. We're back out in the field. And where to begin? It was a long weekend of doing some prep work and antenna building and adjusting wires. I have sweat dripping in my eye. I gotta say, I love antenna work, but you know, the end part of July and maybe some parts of August, I don't mind sweating though, and I enjoy the walking and the exercise. But when you're dealing with 160, you know, it's, 263 feet of wire? And so, you know, you're making adjustments and you're going back and forth. And yeah, you can boil it down to saying, uh-oh, he got back up, didn't he? Damn right I did. You're damn right. I'm out here in the woods and I look at this spot and I think, good grief, man. There's just so much work. And my original hang here, I was lucky to be able to keep the path of the legs. And I'm pretty damn close to the original spot that I got up over the tree, the rope over the tree. Let's talk about the rope up over the tree. So I cast a fishing line. I'll take nuts and bolts, whatever I can on a 10-pound test, and throw it up there that has a hole in it that'll go up and come back down to me. And I guess it was about a week ago. You know, I've got all kind of fishing line in the tree now, and long story short, I was missing quite a bit. And I finally got up over the limb I wanted to get over, but I also went up over a limb higher. So I'm not truly over just the limb I want to be over. I'm up over that, above that by probably 10 feet. And so it presents a bit of an issue in terms of, you know, and you know, maybe it's good though. I don't know if I can explain this right. So the rope now goes over 2 limbs up high. The lower limb is where I really want to be. However, I've got a rope that goes up higher. So this means that the lower rope that's holding my balun and the antenna up in the air isn't really kind of snug over a limb, just one. So it can kind of move around, and that's because there's 10 feet maybe above it. It's not like looped over one limb. So it's in a good position. I've got it hanging lower than the bottom limb, so it's not just going to kind of swing free and about, but it can swing some. And I think the bottom limb, I told you this is complicated. The bottom limb is kind of just there as a safety bump, maybe, you know, because it's not exactly right over it. It can't really swing too far to the east. It could swing out a little bit to the west, but, you know, and this is all because the limb I'm over is about 10 foot above it. This one's just sort of happenstance that the nut or the bolt came back down behind the bottom position. I'm confusing myself now. long story short, man, is that it's a lot of wire, it's a lot of work. The tree that fell down, it wasn't really a tree, but a huge limb. It could be considered a tree in most places. Is still on the ground. That made it challenging getting the north side leg up. And I'm just out here looking at it now. It's up. It should read the same as it did before. I mean, it is almost exactly in the same spot. And we're back in business. NI4L really stepped up. He heard me. I said, look, this is what happened. We talked about it on the show, of course. This was his custom build Ballon. This antenna, he doesn't sell this antenna. He sells a version of this called the Fat Boy, and he uses ladder line, and he built me a Ballon for it. It does really well. I don't have the numbers here, but I'm thinking like, let's not get into that right now. I don't have exact numbers, but maybe I can talk about it once I go to the inside. The antenna is back up. Chris stepped up. NI4L antennas. This was his baby. He built it from the ground up. I hung it up. We've been monitoring it for a couple of years. And when I told him that I lost it, he wanted to help me get a new Ballon in place. So he sent me out a new Ballon that he put together. And I built the antenna back up on Saturday night. And I wanted to keep a lot of, he has ropes reinforcing the legs at the Ballon. It's just a really strong build. He builds a really strong antenna. And I wasn't ready to let it go and just be like, screw it, man. I don't want to deal with this ladder line. Some people will say ladder line, can be a little dicey. In the wintertime, because you got ice, you got snow that builds up on it, and I can see that. Others will say, put a little fire in it, and you'll burn that stuff off. Now, I notice every week or so I have to come out here and maybe, pull the ends of the legs down a little bit. They're weighted down with window sashes or window weights. And so they move a little bit. Trees move, the legs move. It's kind of a nice relationship. The storm that came through pulled the rope that holds the Ballon up over the tree. And with force, the leg fell, tree fell on the leg, the rope took it over. And it was a mess, man. I came in here and I'm still picking up shards of the PVC that was used to build the original Ballon. So Chris sends me a new one out. I get up over this tree with a fishing line. It took me a long time. I think it looks good. It looks like it used to look, but the only thing is that rope where I have it hanging just goes up so much higher. And you may be saying, dude, why don't you go up to the original height, like the highest point? You can't. There's just too many limbs under that. The one that I want to be under, and where the position of the antenna is now, is where I want to be. It's just the rope goes up that much higher, and it's sort of like it can swing a little bit. Not too much. There's coax here that's holding it. We're just short of 60 feet in height. We're about 58 feet where we are. I think it's fine. I think a little too much, but it's a different scenario for me. I wish I would have been able to cast and get over the limb that I wanted to be over originally. Right now I'm over something just way up there, and the antenna dips down lower, probably 10 feet on rope. And the rope is kind of just sitting and chilling on that bottom. It's not really tied down to it. It's just there. So I suppose if the wind were to blow and come toward the east, that, it would just kind of move the antenna and slightly in the breeze, and it would kind of hold it in place. So it's kind of a catch-all. If the top limb, which is a much smaller limb, I didn't try to pull on it because it's very much alive, and it's toward the top of this tree, but it's thinner. It's probably a few inches thick, couple maybe, I can't tell from here. If it ever snaps, the antenna will, and the rope will come on the limb that I really want it on, which is a thicker limb, the lower limb. Anyway, sometimes guys like me just think a lot. The good news is Chris sent it out. I rebuilt it, hung it up. Oh man, it's a lot of walking. I'm getting my steps in. You know, we count the steps. I'm getting plenty of those in. And I'm happy with it. I just think too much about the centerpiece. And it's always been the point of failure. Because what happens was, and maybe this is good, this rope won't pull right at the limb. If it's pulled and tugged and something pulls on it, at least it's going to go up. It'll have a little space and leeway to go up a bit. I mean, the ends are under the limb, the bottom limb. The coax is under the bottom limb, so it keeps it sort of weighted and in place. It's holding. I should stop worrying about it. But I've lost this antenna twice in this area. And usually it's because the balun is pulled free from its space. It doesn't slip out of the rope. It just takes the trauma at that center point where the rope is. So maybe this is a much better position for me. I don't know. We're just going to see, guys. It's the best I can do. But 160 is definitely back up. And I'll go in the house and we'll take some meter readings. Maybe I better get some water before I start talking to you guys again. A cool weekend here in Missouri. Still enough to put the air conditioning on, but the air is blowing and moving. And it's a nice weekend. And I look around, and if I had it where I could just drop a tree here or there, I most certainly would. I could put this thing right in the clear. But be that as it may, we're dealing with what we're dealing with, and Mother Nature, friends, always wins. She will always win and will not just beat you up. Will beat that ass. And then you'd say, I want some more of that, Mother Nature, please. You know, because here I am back in the tree. Now, 160 isn't going to come into play until like the fall for me. I could probably do some business early in the mornings if I wanted to. Probably catch some guys on 1.900. That seems to be a pretty active frequency. A couple small limbs that I see that could, one day be an issue. Hopefully they'll just kind of grow up and push past. But this thing may come down again before I need to worry about tree growth. Go back in the house, Christian. All right, so we're making the long track back. And I'm going to leave it as it is. I'll take some meter readings on the other side of this break. We also swapped out a balun for 80 meters. Again, thanks to Chris, NI4L. I can't say it enough. You don't see Chris out at the Hamfest and things like that, or the big trade shows. This guy builds a really strong antenna, and it's worth checking out. I paid for all the antennas that I talk about in the companies that I use because I want to speak freely. I want to be able to speak freely of any issues and problems I have, or weaknesses, or just won't do this or that. So I buy the radios that I have, the antennas that I have, all of that, so I can tell you what I feel, and I do. There we go. I'm just staring up there, man. It looks good up there. It's just like, it's like, you okay? You okay? It's like taking the child to school. You okay? Everything all right? You gonna be okay? All right, you'll be fine. Don't worry. I'm gonna come back and get you. I'm gonna come back. I'll come back. And I do this. I don't know. A psychologist would probably say I've got some obsessive compulsive type things. I'll leave a rope out here that's a little too long that I want to cut and singe, just so I make my way back out here again, knowing that I left something. When I was a kid, I'd leave a little bite of food on the plate. I don't know. Is that hope? Or just to think maybe I'd come back. I'm not going to eat that bread. But I'll leave a little something so I can come back and check it out. And that's what I'm doing. Well, I hope things are going well for you. Let me just thank Chris again for hooking me up with a couple of baluns. He knew I took some bumps, man. I did take the bump on 160 hardcore, lost it. And it's been a three-week deal. But I kind of take the work as I can get it, and I get out there and do it. And I've been fortunate not to have to do too much antenna work. I still have. So as I cut across the antenna garden, I don't have an antenna farm. I have several antennas, but I don't consider it a farm at all. I can see the work that I have to do with my hex beam. And when I put that up, I thought the worst thing that could happen would be one of these nearby trees would take me out. That's not it at all. The support rope on this radio wave has galloped and I'm twisted up, man. I don't like it. I look at the hex beam, I feel like I've just let it down. And I would do it on my own, but this is 30 feet in the air and about 25 pounds up at the top with the rotor and the pipe. It would come crashing down and it would be a mess. So I need somebody out here to help me. I'm going to try to schedule time with Emmett again. I like to work with the makers of the antennas when I can. He helped me put this in, build it, and put it up. So if I can get him to come back out, he lives in Missouri, so it's not like it's a huge jump. And we'll do some work on it, try to fix it up and get it back together, because I just feel bad. I don't even turn it on right now, because what happens is support rope has galloped free, and it's sort of going from that inverted umbrella shape to like your umbrella when you break one of the things, and it starts to flop down a little bit, loses its shape, and it's definitely bumming me out to look at it, but I'm looking at it. And again, this is an antenna, it's a beam, so it doesn't give me all the disadvantages of being deep in the woods with a long wire. It just has its own set of considerations, which is the tilt, a rotor, and all the things that go with that. We can talk about hex beams and that project when we get a little closer to doing it. All right, friends, let me pause here, pump the brakes, get some water, and we'll go in and take a meter reading and just to give you a real quick show for this week. We'll come back and talk about that more next.
From the summit to the shack, this is 100 watts and a wire.
The competitive edge you've been looking for. Raise the bar and hear what others cannot with this flagship transceiver, the 7851 from ICOM. It has reciprocal mixing dynamic range, a crystal clear LO design, a spectrum scope, dual receivers, a digital voice recorder, and let's not forget the IC7610, the SDR every ham wants, and just in time for contesting season. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest of signals, even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. That's the new ICOM 7610, the direct sampling, software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of an SDR transceiver, and the IC7300, changing the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all ICOM radios.
Little pistols and big guns. This is 100 watts and a wire.
All right, back here in the shack, we're going to turn some things on real quick, and then we'll take a reading of the 160 antenna, the rehang. And let's see where we are here. We need to move off of, let's see, we got the 40 meters. Let's see what's happening here. There's a lot of parks, I believe, in the 7212. All right, so what we're going to do here in the shack, as I get my water and need a little more coffee, I've got a small bag of gear and tools that I took out there in the field, because it is a bit of a walk. All right, let me grab my meter, my antenna analyzer, and I'm using this MFJ 226 analyzer. I like it a lot. I've tried and used and still have the Rig Expert, the AA30, and it does a good job, but something was wrong with the point where you connect your coax, and something went weird for me, and I don't know. I've heard that happen to another person, but I enjoyed it while it was working well. I couldn't get consistency out of it. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm just unplugging the antenna from the radio, and we're going to check on the analyzer where we are with this 160. And something is, let's see, we'll switch over, get my switcher set up here. All right, we are 2-1 at 1 point. I'm sorry. We are at 2.1 SWR at 1.855, and then rolling across the band here. My lowest point looks like 1.2 at 1.941, and then cruising on through to 2.00. We're at 2.0. So we're good from, what did I say? 1.855 to 2.00 and a little bit more. I could probably tune it in a different way. But that's essentially what we're looking at here. So 2.00, we're at 2.0, and then it's good all the way through. Let's see. We are at 1.855 through 2.00, and that's essentially what it was before, and that's just fine for me. I'm excited that I've got it back up, and it was taken care of. It's not exactly time for this, it's just not. It's not really time for 160. In the fall it'll be better, in the winter it'll be great. There's just something about having a dead ass antenna up there in the air that just bums me out. Makes me feel like I should be doing something more, and I don't know, maybe it's just I waited 3 weeks, probably almost 4 weeks now, to get it together, and I needed to get a little bit more rope. My rope was talked about that last week. I wanted one center piece for my rope. I don't want to piece things together and make it a bunch of hodgepodge of rope. I want one solid piece that holds my antennas up. So there you go. I've got something to think about. There are worse things that I need to think about. The limb of the tree actually threw me a little bit. The one I want to be under is where the antenna is. It's kind of resting just below the one I really want to be over. But technically, I'm over one that's probably 10 feet higher. I can't use the one that's 10 feet higher. There's no way I could get the legs. I don't think. Oh, don't get me started. No, it's just too high up in the tree to really spread out the legs of the 160 antenna and have them be, in the clear. It's just no way. Good news is if that smaller one up high does happen to break, I'm hoping the rope will just fall down to the spot I really would want it on. In the meantime, we'll just hope that there's not too much swing going back and forth or banging against the lower limb as I've sort of lowered the balun down below the branch I really want to be around. I can't imagine it's going to bounce and swing too much, and maybe there's a benefit there to not being so locked in that it can kind of swing a little bit and not really pull or that sort of deal. Anyway, it's a first world problem. The band doesn't even really come into its own until it gets colder, and then the middle of winter it becomes a real good player for most people. Well, there you have it. 160 has come to a complete. Thanks to Chris again, NI4L. Check out his antennas. Check out the builds and the prices. And you know what? I would talk to him. I would tell him he's the kind of guy you call and look at something that may be custom. Tell him what you're dealing with, what you're thinking about, and, go from there. You can buy from dealers, and right off the shelf, and they're going to make good antennas for you. If you're looking for something special, maybe they'll do that too, but that's what I did with the 160 originally. I told him, this is what I have. I'm out in the woods. I need something tough. We jacked it up. We took, and so think about doing that. He's hooked me up with a balun for my 180, which definitely was struggling. The one I had up there was definitely losing its looks. It still works. But it was giving me a little problem, and you can never tell when the balun's starting to slip. And I've had this balun on 80 meters, It also took a little bump too. If you go back to the original shows when I did the walkthrough, the 80 meter that I talked about didn't get as much attention in this whole project as the 160. But it seems to me like this old Ballon may have been started to go, and you never really get like uh-oh, and I feel like something's up with it. And I've had it for several years, and I just wanted to replace it. And so Chris sent one out for that too. So we did a 160 and a 180 kind of makeover this weekend, thanks to Chris and all of you. I appreciate your support. You guys have sent me cool notes, wishing and hoping that I get back on the air, and I did. It just took me several weeks to get it together and to get the time. We always say family first. You got to do what you have to do. If you don't have the money to buy an antenna, don't go buy an antenna. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just wait. Go get some groceries, okay? I've seen some horror stories out there at talking to my friends at Hamfest, and I go out there and they're trying to sell something and it's $40 or $70, and somebody will come around and say, I don't even have the money, cash on me. I could write a check, and people are like, nah, I'm gonna need that cash. All right, let me go to the bank machine, and I got like $70 in there. And you're like, dude, go buy food for the baby. Go buy yourself dinner. Leave this component or whatever it is you're trying to buy that you absolutely need right now. Leave it. You see these people just have to have something, and they got to buy it, and they'll take the last bit of money they have to do it. This was a case where I've got plenty of time to put it up and fix it. Fortunately, Chris jumped in, wanted to help because he's the original guy on the project, and he stepped up. Or else I would have been waiting to buy 2 Ballons. Yeah, I know, guys. I know the purists are saying you built you one damn thumb on back. No, I don't have the time. I don't have the time and the know-how, or, I can't do it right now. Even the know-how, I've seen many of them taken apart, and I can kind of get it. I've got enough broken ones around here now that I can figure it out. I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time for it. So there are people that do this for a living, and that's kind of the way I got to go. I can't build everything. I did build the antennas, though. I did build those antennas and put them up. So stop breaking my balls. Have a great week, and I hope everything's been good for you this summer. There's always seeming to be a lot going on, a lot on our mind, lots of things to think about. But summertime's a great time to spend time and make memories with your family. If you can go and do that, do it. And it doesn't even take a big old trip, a big old vacation. Just go to a park. Go to a park, spend some quality time with your peoples. All right? I appreciate you, and I appreciate your support. Share this out with your friends. Let them know how to become a sustaining member. A great way to become a sustaining member, go to 100wattsandawire.com. Look at the donor page. You get benefits. You give $25 to the show for 1 year. You can get discounts at participating companies. It's almost like a ham radio coupon book. It's true. And it's a win-win-win. I can put the money back into the show and into its development. You'll get a discount from participating vendors and hopefully get something good for your project. And they get a sale. A lot of these companies are smaller. They're ma and pa shops. And the ones that are participating, they appreciate your business as well. So think about that. Investing $25 in the show and in yourself, and become a sustaining member. Lots of great stuff on the website. Check it out. I'll leave it there, friends. Until next time, this is Christian K0STH saying, if you can, whatever you need to do, if you need help from your friends, just turn the page and try and stay above the noise.
To join the 100 Watts and a Wire community, visit 100wattsandawire.com.